Very good evening to all of you. Evara Voices welcomes you all for this evening's conversation with Priyanka Hosangadi, a nature and animal communicator, bark flower remedies practitioner, NLP practitioner and coach. And she has also conducted a lot of workshops to train people to become animal communicators. This evening is going to be filled with wonderful conversation with a beautiful human being, and she's an awesome person, and she's got a beautiful soul. No wonder that's why she can communicate with nature and animals. Very good evening, Priyanka. Welcome on our show.
Hi, Vanita.
Hi,
Thank you for asking me
good
to
evening.
join your show.
Welcome on our show. Evara Voices welcomes you. Evara means God's gift, and it's truly God's gift to be communicating with animals and nature. I've given a small intro, but I would like to know from you about your platform and what you do with it.
Sure. So I launched my brand, Eira by Priyanka, in 2022. I've been a professional animal communicator since 2016, but in 2022, I quit my job and decided to do this full time. So right now, through Eira by Priyanka, Eira in Sanskrit means nature. So I
Oh,
thought, yeah, so I thought that was a beautiful name, or a beautiful representation of all that I do, given that, as an animal communicator, I connect with animals and nature. I also work with bark flower remedies, which are energetic essences of flowers. And I also do mindset coaching, but again, it's about knowledge and transformation, because Ira means nature in Sanskrit, but it's also another name for Devi Saraswati, who is
that's
the goddess of
wonderful. I
knowledge.
think I think today Evara meets Eira, which Evara means God's gift and Eira means nature. So let's dive straight into our evening today. I've got lots of questions for you. The first one is, what inspired and prompted you to go into this field?
So I actually learned animal communication in 2016 because I wanted to communicate with my dog who had passed away. I had a childhood dog companion named Ria, and she was my rock, quite literally, in many ways. And after she passed away, there were some things I wanted to find out about her, or share with her. And in 2011, I happened to find out that something like communication or animal communication existed, right? But like I always say, we learn this at the right time. So when I actually got to learn it in 2016, I learned it from the mentor I wanted to. I waited for 4 years, finally learned it from her. And I also I think the concepts that I learned through communication, I learned it at the right time, because I would have earlier been a little logical, or a little, too questioning about it. But at that point in time, everything just fit beautifully into it. So the journey began with, I think, trying to communicate with my dog. And that's how I never planned to do it professionally. That was the biggest joke in a way. I just learned it for myself. But the very next day after I finished my course, the basic course, I had people approach me for help, and that's how the whole journey began. So I
Wonderful.
think yeah.
It's wonderful. Your early readings, or tell me about your mentors and teachers.
So I've learned with two mentors. One, the basic level I did with Maya Kincaid, who's considered as one of the pioneers in the field. And she's based in Sedona, Arizona, in the US. At that point of time, she came down to India for what were meant to be, I think, her first set of in-person workshops. But after that, it didn't really, materialize. So in a way, I was lucky, because, I just got that situation at the right time. And I also did my advanced with Manjari Latte of Earthworks. So she's my mentor in more ways than one. She's instrumental in, I think, who I am today as a communicator. Also was the one who sort of pushed me to teach, even though at that point I didn't feel ready. But these are the two mentors I officially learned communication with. But any animal, any species that I connect with, any human that I interact with, I think all of them are mentors in every way because each person or each animal or species teaches me a lot. So I feel even today, after nearly 10 years of being a communicator, each session or each communication that I do still teaches me something new every time.
Wonderful. I can't agree more because I did a short workshop with Maya, and she is just such a natural. She doesn't impose, she doesn't have any rules. She herself is so humble and grounded, so it's not
Absolutely.
intimidating learning from her. So I
Yeah.
can understand how beautiful it would have been to learn in person with Maya. And our next thing is how did you find your early readings? Because there would have been a lot of confusion and whether it's real or fake, that
So
how
I
do you transit between this stage?
So I think an important thing, and that's something which I also tell my participants who learn from
Yeah.
me. I teach myself right now as well. And I think one of the most important lessons as a communicator is not just about receiving the communication, but I personally feel the biggest journey for myself or the biggest learning for myself has been how to trust myself.
Mhm.
And that's something which I also see a lot of people, my peers, my friends, or even people who learn with me. I think that's that's one of the biggest learnings or the biggest lessons we gain from this journey. Because what happens is we usually find it very easy to trust other people or others, but a lot of us constantly second doubt or we keep doubting or second guessing our decisions or our actions. So for me, I think initially, yes, also, what happened was when I started off, the first few cases, or actually for the first couple of years, majority of the cases that I were handling were missing cases where animals had gone missing or they
Mm.
were lost and couldn't find their way back home. And I think those cases are especially important and they teach us a
Yeah.
lot because over there, there's no human validation in a sense until the animal is actually found, if they're found, right?
Right. Okay.
So for me, what happened is I had to trust myself. So, like I tell people, I literally had to hit the ground running because my very first case, the evening I finished Maya's workshop, the next morning, 8 a.m., literally, I had a kidnapped dog case fall in my lap, right? So, my baptism was by fire in a sense, or I think I had to literally hit the ground running in a sense. But I feel what happens is initially human validation does help to a certain extent,
Yes.
but they might not always agree with what's being shared because sometimes the guidance that comes through is for something that's a future situation, for instance,
Mm.
or it might be something that the human does not really want to accept at times. Sometimes you don't even, we aren't even aware of certain things within ourselves that could change, and our animals actually beautifully point out those
Yeah.
things. So that's something that I learned to rely on quite early was to trust myself and trust that whatever I was receiving was from the animals that I communicated with. Animals or plants, basically any species. Right now, when I say animals, I'm talking about the entire natural kingdom. And I think that's the most important thing. So for me, the early readings initially, yes, one or two cases might have been where, there was doubt. But later on, I pretty soon had to learn to trust myself. And I think that in that sense, starting off with missing cases really helped me quite a lot.
That's good. That's good. That's nice to hear that. I also had some experience of speaking to a cat in Maya's workshop, which took me by surprise because I'm interactive with dogs, but cat speaking to me, and then it was spot on. And but I've not taken it very seriously, as I told you in our initial call,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
I'm considering it maybe like after I take a break from what I'm doing currently because it's really taking away all my energy. But I would go back to it because I'm a natural American animal lover, so
Nice.
that comes to me quite naturally attractive. Now my next question is, okay, animal communication we can understand. We normally talk to cows and dogs and our pets as it is. How did
Mm.
it start with nature, because just plant is not plant, right? It's a whole of that environment that we're talking about. So how did it begin and what motivated you to do that, and was there a special reason that you had to speak to a certain species, or how was the interaction like?
So I think nature-wise, we started off with in Maya's workshop itself, we were communicating with different species. So that sort of really opened my eyes to the fact that it wasn't just about animals. You
Oh,
could also communicate with different species. And honestly, the techniques are the same. The different ways in which we receive information are the same. So it's really about your intention and who you are communicating with. You need to be clear on that, more importantly.
mm,
But what happened is after I did the advance with Manjari, then that's when I really started communicating with landscapes, just for my knowledge, just for my practice. Because what happens is when we communicate with a collective consciousness of a landscape or a
right,
certain area, there is a lot of wisdom. Obviously, it's a very evolved sort of communication in that sense. The kind of information we get from them. So there is beautiful guidance that comes in comes in from animals as well, no doubt. It's not like there's a difference. But for me, I just felt called or drawn towards communicating with different landscapes, different
true.
species. And it was actually one of the ways I would practice. So I would set my intention to communicate with whoever wanted to communicate with me at that point of time.
Mm.
And I've had like a blue whale from South Africa pop up. I've
Wow.
had a penguin from some other part of the world come up. I've had a mountain range which had some beautiful advice for me at a point where I was going through a tough period, in a sense,
Mm.
personally. And so that's the thing. When we set our intention that whoever's meant to guide us or whoever's meant to um, share their wisdom with us, if we set that intention, then I feel whoever's meant to guide us at that point of time just shows up, whether you're prepared for it or not, in a
True, very
sense.
true,
So
very
that's how
true.
I started communicating with nature beyond just animals.
That's beautiful. But when animals from the wild communicate, do they just want to have a conversation or, like just have a chat, or are they asking or seeking help from you in any way that would help them as well as us?
Nice question. So animals, especially wildlife, when we communicate with them, I feel it's actually opposite because they have so much wisdom to share with us.
Mm.
If we look at various tools like the map of consciousness, or even understand, I mean, those of us who spend time with nature, we know that they are far more wise than we are as humans, right?
Yeah.
We feel we are evolved as a species because we walk on two legs, we've invented different things, no doubt. But like I was talking to one of my the groups that I was teaching recently, I said if you look at modern life these days, we aim to get work-life balance, we aim for
Mm.
mindfulness, we aim to get peace of mind,
Right.
tune out, spend time with nature, forest bathing, whatever concepts you want to talk about it. And these are all concepts, or these are all practices, let's put it that way, that our ancestors and even so-called backward communities or tribal communities practice as part of their daily routine, right?
Yes.
So I feel as urban dwellers in that sense, we are pretty
Mm.
disconnected from nature. And that also, I feel, leads us to sometimes operate from a point of ego where we feel that everyone needs our help or we need to help
Right.
everyone. A lot of times, if you chat with or if you communicate with wildlife, especially, they don't really need our help. In fact, they have help to offer us in terms of guidance and wisdom, right? But if you see even forest ecosystems, I mean, this is, it is established practice where forest ecosystems where humans have minimal intervention or we really don't intervene or interfere, those ecosystems work beautifully. But the moment we get into intervening or changing things, then the whole delicate balance goes for a toss. So,
Yes.
not I've personally not had a situation where animals have asked for help, in the sense, wildlife rather have asked
Right.
for help.
Mm.
They know how to manage their ecosystem themselves, but
Wonderful.
they do have a lot of information to share.
Oh, wonderful. Now you tell us about soul contract. I want to know what is soul contract, and they come here for a purpose. And are we crossing the line and interfering into their soul's journey? Are we obstructing it in any way? And are we altering it in any way? Uh,
So, soul contracts, from my conversation with animals, just putting this disclaimer out there that there are a lot of different beliefs or different perspectives on death and the afterlife or soul contracts or karmic contracts, etc. What I'm sharing is what nature and animals have shared with me, right? So a lot of times we feel that we we get an animal or a plant home, or we choose the plant or animal that we get home. However, from what my interactions and conversations have been with any of these species, it's usually 50-50 in the sense there are different soul contracts or karmic contracts that we have. Animals use these terms, at least with me, interchangeably. So people, some people say karmic contracts are different from soul contracts. Animals use it fairly interchangeably. Any animal that chooses to come into our life, they choose to come in at the right time,
Yeah.
though we at that point might not feel prepared, or we weren't expecting them to come in. And that's exactly how it happened with my cat
Yes.
companion as well, right? But they choose the time when they will enter into our lives because they have different soul contracts, or we as two souls have different soul contracts to fulfill or to clear out.
Right.
And there are different soul contracts. I mean, it's a vast spectrum in that sense, so I wouldn't really get
Yes.
into all of them. But the fact that we are taking care of them is a soul contract that's playing out in itself.
Mm.
Um, we interacting today is also a soul contract that is playing out.
Yes,
So two
absolutely.
souls, correct. So two souls, before a soul is born in a physical form, it chalks out everything that it is meant to go through in its life in
Mm.
that physical form because it has a certain soul journey. It's meant to learn certain important lessons. We learn certain important lessons from our animals as well, and vice versa. They also help us, they also teach us and they also learn certain lessons that they're meant to. Whether it's obstruction or whether it's, we are interfering in it, as a communicator, I would suggest it's important to ask that animal, for instance, if there's an injured animal or an animal who's extremely seriously injured. As a communicator, I would first ask them, do you need any help from me? Or
Mm.
can I help you in any way?
Mm.
If they say no, they're meant to go through that suffering for whatever reason to clear out a karmic contract or a soul contract. Then I would, just say my thanks and move away, right? Because if that animal does not need help and is supposed to go through a certain experience karmically, but we sort of force our help on them, for the lack of a better word,
Right.
then that could be obstruction of, or changing, altering the
Ju-
karmic contract that the animal was meant to, yeah, the soul journey that they are meant to go through. So that's what I tell people who learn with me also. I have many participants who are fosters, rescuers, feeders, couple of them who are vets as well. I
Mm.
always tell them either communicate first and then take action based on that, or take action and then communicate to find out how you can help, if at all. But avoid wearing both hats at the same time because that becomes very contradictory for you. And
Right.
you'll find yourself pulled in two different directions. So anything that plays out in the world between two souls is a soul contract. Simple as
Yes,
that. I can
absolutely.
break it down.
Absolutely. I can see a lot of wisdom in the way you are seeing this work and the way you're relating to the whole thing without adding in with your personal ego. And I think that's a quality I saw in Maya also. Uh,
Thank
yeah, that's a quality she has, and it's a beautiful quality to have, to work without ego. Then we open our heart center, and then that the soul connection really happens very beautifully. And I do agree that dogs come into a life. Any pet comes into a life for a reason, because I have grown up with 5 dogs in a span of let us say half a decade. I mean, like half a century, and
you. Yeah.
every dog came into my life when I really needed it the most. My life was literally going into a transformation stage. Something very different was happening. I mean, my life shifted. I mean, we can say it altered reality. So
Yeah.
every time I had been connected closely with a dog, that is what happened. But my interest
Yeah.
now towards animal communication happened for a very weird reason, not any of my dogs, but a dog which was left abandoned in Delhi. And that dog never leaves my mind. Um,
Okay.
but right now, I'm not able to adopt him, but he keeps coming into my uh, vision. I keep thinking about him all the time. I'm looking how I can help him and bring him. But
Yeah.
right now, it's not a good situation because too many things are happening. But that is what actually got me picked into this field. And
Right.
I would be very, very interested to spread this awareness and maybe, we can arrange for online workshop where more people can join and learn this beautiful art because it's a communication. It's a communication and it's a language of its own, and it's so beautiful without words. So there is no artificiality in this communication. That's something I
I
see.
feel sometimes, sorry, I feel sometimes language actually maybe restricts the
Yes,
whole
yes,
scope of
that's what
or
I
the
feel.
depth
That's
of
what I
the
feel.
depth of
That
communication.
true, true, true,
And
true.
in fact, any language, as a neurolinguistic programming trainer, which
Hmm.
is the science of
I'm
human
coming to
behavioral
that now.
intelligence. Yeah.
That we have finished with that animal, this thing. I want to know about your passions, profession, your journey as Priyanka.
Yeah. So, apart from communication, I love learning. I invest in learning,
Mm.
in growth and in learning because I feel the more we learn, the more our awareness or perspectives expand.
Yes, true.
And I feel we start responding to things differently versus reacting to them. So
Yes,
I feel, in fact, again, like I said, communication was not meant to be professional for me because it was just something I was doing out of a very personal need to connect with my dog. But since I started communicating, and it's been almost a 10-year journey now, but I've seen myself shift and change in so many different ways.
yes,
And I think one thing that animal communication and I'd learned Reiki before animal communication. I think one of the things those two modalities did was to spark my interest in learning and growing as a human, or just growing as
right.
Priyanka. So for me, if you ask me about who I am, I've always been the sort who loved helping people, especially animals. But again, now as a communicator, I know and I respect that if they say they don't need help. But I love learning. I love traveling. Traveling is a passion of mine. I love, I'm lucky because I love animals. And here's the thing, I wanted to be a vet at one point of time when I was in school.
Mhm.
But the funny part is at that point of time, I loved biology. I scored really well in it, but physics, chemistry, math really put me off. So
Okay.
I decided not to, go ahead with the veterinary school. But here's the interesting thing. Now I spend my days doing exactly what I dreamt of doing in a different way, where I'm communicating with animals, with plants, with landscapes
Right.
professionally. And I'm also helping animals,
Mm.
through bach flower remedy. So I'm not treating them, very clear on that part,
Yeah.
but helping them deal with their emotions or their fears or anything that they're going through. So
Right.
in that sense, I'm working with animals, which is exactly what I dreamt of as a kid.
Okay.
But so I always say life works in mysterious ways.
Absolutely.
And also, if you really want to do something, if you're really meant to do something, it might not happen the way you expect it to. But if you take a step back and sort of look at it, from a macro perspective, you realize that it's worked out in ways you might have not expected it to, but probably you're enjoying it way more than you thought you would, which is
I
exactly
can't
what
I can't agree more with you on this because I too share a similar thing. My father wanted me to do medicine, and I
happened.
was dead against any science, like, for example. And then I told him I'm not going to dissect a rat and see all that. And, like it was not my kind of a thing. And I went into commerce actually. And right now I'm doing my PhD in alternative medicine and doing research in autoimmune disorders. And I never expected to see myself in these shoes actually. It's beyond my comprehension of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
Everything to do with healing and energy medicine and lot of
yeah,
things that I'm doing is
yeah,
not something that I would have imagined Vanita to be doing. I might have
yeah,
had a lot of other ambitions, but exactly, life finds you in ways that you will be totally surprised. But I
yeah.
think that's exactly what you're meant to do. And then when it really comes to you on its own, you find the beautiful feeling of, oh, exactly, this is exactly what I should have been thinking, what I wanted to do from the beginning, right? Yeah,
But then we also think of, like I tell people, at any point of time in our lives, we always take the best decision based on the choices we had and the knowledge that we had back then. So for me, at that point of time, given, earlier, given the fact that I was so logical and science driven, and, I remember uh, I would be like, show me the proof, show me the science,
Yeah,
etc.
right.
And so that's when sometimes people approach me to learn communication and they say, but I'm very logical. And I say, bang on,
Mhm.
welcome, because that's exactly how I was. So there's a
Right.
whole lot of, I feel a whole lot of unlearning that happens in terms of taking a step back from what formal education and society have conditioned us to be
Absolutely.
and starting to trust ourselves or starting to trust our intuition or our right brain or whatever you want to call it. But
Yes.
I think there's a whole lot of unlearning in that sense, which happens when we do different modalities, not just
Right.
communication, but even say energy healing and things like that.
Yes.
We
Everything.
start we start stepping back and breaking
I
down quite
I
a bit.
can see you as you are explaining, in exactly the same way, without um, subtracting or adding anything of my own, because you're literally speaking from your soul, and that is the beauty of your being itself. And when I introduced you, it was meant for that.
Right.
I'm so glad to have connected with you. It has been a beautiful, wonderful evening of lovely things that you shared with us, and I'm
Thank you so much.
looking forward to working with you in future. At least spread this awareness for your platform, and
Thank
more people should connect, and we will stay connected, and we will see how to take this up. And for more animal stories and what they share with you, I think we will have more sessions in the future. Thanks so much for connecting,
thank
and
thank you so much.
wish you all the best in your journey with NLP, Bach Flower Remedies, and animal and nature communication. Thanks for joining us, Priyanka.
Thank you, Vanita. Thank
Wish
you
you
so
the best.
much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.